The Early Weigh-In podcast is back. After a week off for Valentine's Day, UFC is on the road. We head to Houston, Texas, UFC Houston, 14 fights on tap. Really good card, man. Main event, Sean Strickland, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, number one contender fight at middleweight there. And violence from the get-go, man. Jeff Neal versus Euros Medic in our co-main. Going to switch things up a little bit, back to the old format. Hundreds of breakdowns out there. Still going to focus on the main, the co-main, but we really want to hone in on the spots that we like throughout the card, really focus on that. So it's going to be the new format going forward. Hope you guys like that. As always, though, going to recap last week before we jumped into this week. And first night in the green for me this week, or for this year, very small, man, just 0.16 units. Kind of run through my card real quick. Worst bet in a long time, Jalton Almeida, earliest bet I made in the week, closing line value, awful bet, man. Mario Bautista, that was my last bet I made for the week. Waited for the line to get where I wanted. Cashed with ease there. And then fight doesn't go the distance. Kong Wang at Ora Mora. I mean, dude, first round, second round, third round. I thought I was going to cash that everywhere. Did hit the Wicklack sub plus 330 with 1 second to go. Was pretty sick. Souza inside the distance at plus 450. Dude, she hurt Bruna Brazil like 4 times and just refused to cut the cage off and pressure her. It was extremely frustrating. Julius Walker, man, started to get some of those takedowns. It felt like that was live. So minus a little bit on the shots there, but made it back with my Basharat and Horiguchi parlays there. Again, 0.16 units. Just happy to be in the green, looking to carry it over into this week.
So a little bit different for me. I went for the plus 300 Amir Albazi versus Kyle Horiguchi. I thought the fight would have been a little bit closer. It was not. He looked like a plus 300. Took a shot, didn't work out for me. Did bet Mario Bautista. Similarly, I waited to the last minute to put this line in at minus 145, won a little bit over a unit there. And then fight doesn't go the distance in Eduardo Mora. Kong Wang, tough one, man, especially in that last bit where, it looks like Kong Wang almost was subbing her and Eduardo Mora is throwing up the thumbs up. It's tough, man, but little less than a unit is what I lost last week. Not too bad. Looking to get back on track this week. Starting off, we're going to start talking about the main event first. We've got Sean Strickland taking on Anthony Hernandez. This is Hernandez's second main event, and 5-round fights is kind of Anthony Hernandez's thing. It seems like, he just gets better and better as the fight goes on. He just keeps up this relentless pressure, goes to his wheelhouse. He knows what wins him the fight, and he drowns people in pressure. Sean Strickland, on the other hand, I do think that he's kind of made a career off of counter wrestling, also pushing a pace and waiting for people to wilt down the line. Generally speaking, Sean Strickland hasn't had a cardio issue, but also I'm not sure that he's ever fought somebody who's going to be pushing as much of a pace as Anthony Hernandez. And if Hernandez is successful, especially early with a few of his takedowns, I think that they'll come much easier in those later rounds. Sean, I would be more apt to bet him if he had some finishing upside. I do like some of the things that he throws, the teep kick up the middle specifically, but even that, it's off of his front foot. It's usually just a range finder more than it is to actually punish people who are taking shots on him. And I think that Anthony Hernandez might be able to capitalize on that teep kick off the front leg. And ultimately, that will be the demise of Sean Strickland. I'm not sure that this fight is going to look pretty. Like, I think that this isn't, going to look like the cleanest win for Anthony Hernandez, but I think he's going to do what he needs to get the dub. And get his hand raised at the end of the night. So I'm kind of looking at this as Anthony Hernandez winning by decision after 25 hard-fought minutes and a lot of frustration from the Sean Strickland corner. I've heard some takes about some late finishes in the fight for Anthony Hernandez, but I just think that Sean, especially looking at the type of shape that he is coming into this fight and knowing this is kind of a career-defining moment, in my opinion, especially for him moving forward, that he's properly trained for this, and I think that he'll have a good effort out there. So give me Anthony Hernandez by decision.
We see it super similar, man. Just my God's honest opinion of Fluffy. I don't want to say that I've doubted him, but it's still a bit shocking to me to see him at number 4 in the world at middleweight. A win here, and he's fighting for a title because I mean, ultimately, man, you match this guy up with Hamzat, a DDP, a Whitaker, a Baralho. Like, I still think there's tough matchups in the middleweight division that he's kind of avoided to a little bit. I think he still lacks a little bit of physicality. We've seen him hurt. We've seen him finished on more than one occasion. And he just has one of these styles where he has to build into the fight. So a lot of times he's given up early rounds and early minutes. And typically, when you look at the odds, when you like just hypothetically speaking, you see a guy's round one finish at like plus 200. His round two is like plus 400, plus 600. Round three is like plus 1,000. It's the opposite for Fluffy, dude. His round one's like plus 1,200, and his round five's like plus 800. Like they know how he fights. He's a middleweight Marab, dude. You don't see middleweight shooting 15 plus takedowns in a fight. And I talk about him the same way I do Marab. It's not that he's just this overwhelming, really good wrestler, really good jiu-jitsu. It's just so much offense that you're playing so much defense. You don't have time for any of your own personal offense, But again, when I look back at Fluffy, some of the reasons that I doubt him, especially at the highest level, I mean, the win streak, a little bit tailor-made, dude, like Rodolfo Vieira, known gasser. Edmund Shabazian, known gasser. Kopilov, known gasser. Joe Pereira, known gasser. Delidze, kind of say the same thing. I felt like a lot of these styles were tailor-made for Fluffy, and I can't say the same for Sean because I really haven't ever seen cardio be an issue for him. But you brought up the teep kicks. That's not enough, I don't think, to deter Fluffy. He doesn't sit down on body kicks like Kopilov. He doesn't throw knees up the middle. He doesn't really box to the body, and ultimately not being a big KO threat. I think he's put on his back foot here. I don't think you get to see Sean on the front foot with the jab, and I think that's going to ultimately negate a lot of his game. You see DDP successful with a couple takedowns, go all the way back to the Kamaru Usman fight where it's like 5 or 6 takedowns, and he's negated pretty easily, man. So I see Strickland spar 10 rounds, 20 rounds in the gym, but grappling's just a different type of cardio, and the way I feel like he's going to be made to work on Saturday, I do feel like it starts to go Fluffy's way down the stretch. So I'm Fluffy by decision as well. Outside of Alex Pereira and the spinning wheel kick from Dos Santos, Strickland's never been finished. He's never been subbed, So Fluffy decision, plus 125, minus 280 to plus 125. It's middleweights. I feel like that's how you got to play it, man. So I'm with you there. Co-main event, Jeff Neal, Uros Medic at 170. Dude, should be a fun main event. I don't expect this to go the distance one bit. Neal's some of the fastest hands in the UFC, man. Nasty southpaw stance. Love his body kicks. And for the first time in his career, you hear him about in these interviews, man, 100 days sober. Coming into camp, the best shape that he ever has. Seems like he's more focused and that he's been in years. At the end of the day, I hope it's a positive because ultimately the Neal that came into the UFC is not the Neal that we've seen late. The health scares, the addiction issues. But, I mean, ultimately, I think anything under minus 200 really doesn't look that bad. I feel like Neal's always been level. The current performances that don't really make me want to lay 2-1. But I think Uros is far less durable. I've seen him hurt, finished in all 3 of his losses. I think he's got the poor gas tank of the two, just extremely front-loaded fighter. And timing's everything in MMA. Maybe Jeff Neal coming off that bad knockout loss is not in his prime. I've never considered Uros Medic on the same level as Jeff Neal ever in their careers. So it's a Jeff Neal's easy pick for me.
Yeah, so similar reasons. I'm also taking Jeff Neal, but one thing I wanted to add is I do think that there's a grappling upside for him. We haven't seen it much in his career, but he's taken down, honestly, like 3 or 4 of his UFC opponents. We've seen him use submissions in the past, and I think that Uros Medic is somebody who's kind of tailor-made to be taken down and kind of stuffed until you can drain some of that energy and then start picking him up off the feet, or picking him off on the feet. So yeah, Jeff Neal, as long as he's still got a little bit in the gas tank, I think that he still has a higher ceiling than Uros Medic, even at this point in his career. I think that he's the far cleaner striker. I think that the left hand is sneaky. And once it touches Uros just a few times, we're going to see Uros kind of look for those ways out. In my opinion, Uros is kind of a quitter. So I think that Jeff Neal will give him that opportunity to quit. You look at the fight with Shavkat Rakhmonov, the pace that he's able to put on him, even in the 3rd round. I think that that's something that'll absolutely break somebody like Uros. So, yeah, give me Jeff Neal. Give me Jeff Neal inside the distance, but I would not be surprised if he utilizes a little bit of that grappling, especially early, just to get Urosh thinking. Because I think that everybody, or Jeff Neal knows coming into this fight, that's Urosh's best opportunity to win is an early knockout, catching him with the power that he is able to throw. All right, moving on to, is it fight of the night?
Yeah,
fight of the night. Okay, my fight of the night, it's one that a lot of people are hating on this week, but it's going to be Zach Reese versus Michel Pereira. I think that this is a make or break fight for Michel Pereira moving forward in his career. He's riding a 3-fight skid right now, and we are seeing a little bit of money coming back on him, and I think that that's the right call. I am on the Michel Pereira side, and although he is a flashy fighter, made his name on the entertainment aspect of MMA, I do think that he is solid. And even though he's shown a little bit of foot out the door tendencies in his last few, I think that they've just been really, really rough matchups. I think back to the Anthony Hernandez fight where he almost went a full 5 rounds with him. There were so many opportunities in that fight where he had the ability to just wave the white flag and give up. And he stuck through it, was mad whenever they did call the fight in the 5th round. And I just think that speaks volumes on his willingness to kind of endure some tough moments just to find his spot. With Zach Reese, I kind of think the exact opposite. He is so much the hammer and cannot play the nail ever in his fights. And I think that this, as long as Michel Pereira can withstand that early pressure from Zach Reese, I do think that we start to see him pick him off in the 2nd and 3rd round. And truth be told, Zach Reese becomes pretty easy to tell what he's trying to get to. Sometimes he shoots for takedowns that are just obvious. And I think that Michel Pereira, has the capability to throw a flying knee at the right moment and really catch Zach Reese coming in. I think that Zach Reese has also kind of benefited from some favorable matchmaking. When you look down the line, you're talking about Julian Marquez, Jose Medina, Dusko Todorovic, and Jackson McVeigh being your only wins. It does seem like whenever he gets just a little bit of pushback, we're seeing him kind of fade down the line if he can't utilize his physicality early. And so Michel Pereira, I know it's not the best point in his career, but I do think that he's getting kind of undervalued here and taking a huge step down. So I've made it my fight of the night because I just think that this is a career-defining moment for somebody in Michel Pereira who's given us a lot of good fights in the past. I'd like to still see him here. So all eyes on him and this fight right here.
I like it, man. Fight I chose, I believe, the prelim main event. I chose Chidi Bang Bang, Joe Kwani taking on Carlos Leal. I think it's fireworks from the start, man. And, also kind of chose this fight because we had a break in between cards and a lot of money came in on the Chidi side. And, fight week money is fight week money, but, break money to me feels a little bit sharper, and it scares me because I'm not on the Chidi side. I'll go ahead and say, man, I think Chidi's super dangerous. He's long. He uses his range well. Really good Muay Thai striker. He's really nasty up the middle, good in the clinch. But I think he's front-loaded, man. And I think Carlos has the ability to survive that early storm. And if he does, I just feel like Chidi can somewhat kind of be pushed around, slows down and fight, kind of like Zach Reese, man. I don't think he's the best nail. I don't want to say he quits, but I don't know. I don't think Chidi at past 35 really – I don't know. The title's never going to be there for him. I just feel like he's there for a paycheck ultimately at the end of the day. And with Carlos Leal, dude's forward pressure is just ridiculous. It got him called against Muslim last time, but I don't think he changes his game here. And I think that pressure is going to negate a lot of the kicks and things, a lot of the range Chidi likes to have. I think he's got offensive wrestling upside. We saw him fight Saito Busai twice over 5 rounds in the PFL. And, very similar style, but a guy that I think has twice the get-up game, twice the footwork, twice as athletic as Chidi. And I don't know. I just feel like it's a super similar opponent, and I saw him go to the wrestling there, and I think he's going to here. And on the mat, I think it's night and day. I think he could hurt Chidi on the feet, but it's super interesting, when you got Lil coming off the first finish loss ever, just getting slumped as a massive favorite. So plenty of reasons why I chose this fight, man. You got the line movement coming in that I don't really agree with. a fight that I think guys are going to be duking it out from the get-go. Prelim main event for a reason. I'm going to side with Carlos Leal. I'm not going to be on the cheaty side, but I think somebody's going down here, man. I think this is a good fight. For the underdog section, I think me and you kind of just see eye to eye on this section, man. There's one dog that you and I both really like. We both are going to have on the cards. I'll let you get into that. Just so we're not giving out the same one, though, I'm going to go with Punahele Soriano. I know you don't necessarily agree with this. I'm always a glutton for punishment with Puna, but I like it, man. I like it in this spot. If somebody's getting the knockout, I think it's Puna. If someone's winning by decision, it's Puna. He's the only one who's ever won a decision. And so to me, I'm getting plus money to fade a Brahimaj sub. So, at plus money, I think I got the guy who does have questionable cardio, but has won decisions, has been to the third round and been successful, has won a fight past the 1.5 round mark. So, yeah, a bit of an island, but I think at plus 105, plus 110, give me Punahele Soriano, find him on my card, and probably see me play his plus 300 decision prop as well.
For my underdog of the week, and like you mentioned, I'm glad that we're both on him because it makes me even more confident about it. I really like Dan Ige here, man. I have been kind of a Melky Quazel Costa hater, to be honest with you, but I think, again, he's kind of had some favorable matchups. None of the guys that he's been beating recently have been the most physical, especially late in the fight, and I think that that's worked to his advantage. It just seems like Feely and Rodriguez, even Morgan, they're not carrying enough power, especially late, to really make Melky pay whenever he does make mistakes. And I've seen Melky in the past against Steve Garcia. Once he takes a big shot, his game plan changes, and I've seen him get into scrambles where he opens himself up. And I think that Dan Ige is the type of guy who can take advantages of those times where he opens him up. And truth be told, Dan Ige, with his punching power, I think he only needs to win a couple of moments in this fight to actually get the nod on the judges' scorecards. And I trust him enough on the ground and with his chin that I don't think he's getting finished here. So simply the fact that he's had a higher level of competition, I think he can win the moments here. And I don't think that there's any way that he gets finished. I think everything points to the Dan Ige side. Truth be told, the fact that he's even a dog here is kind of surprising to me. So, I pictured at most, I'd still bet him at evens, but the fact that he's a legitimate dog, I think that we're getting a steal of a price tag here. Me and you both cashed on him against Sean Woodson, and I know we both remember that because it was electric seeing him finally get the work in and tear down Sean Woodson. So I think we see something similar here. I think he could finish against Costa, and honestly, I think that he'll win on the judges' scorecard. So definitely the dog of the week for the podcast. But I am glad that you let me keep that because there are not many dogs on this card that I'm actually a fan of. Moving on to the favorite parlay piece. Let's see. It was. Help me out. It's the Michelle Pereira Zach Reese fight doesn't go to decision at minus 290 on BetOnline.
Yeah.
This line is 100 points different depending on the book that you're going to, but right now on BetOnline, you can get minus 290 for fight doesn't go to decision. I talked a little bit about it earlier. Zach Reese, I think he has a good shot early, and maybe Michelle Pereira is completely done. Maybe he's looking for a paycheck here and Zach Reese gets him out in the first round. But if it doesn't, Zach Reese is going to look for that door out. And I think Michelle Pereira is going to give him that door late in the second, early in the third. Either way, I don't think this fight sees the judges' scorecards, and minus 290 seems like a steal for fight doesn't go to decision. So,
yeah, I don't see it hitting scorecards either. I like it. Scares me a bit that you think Neal might wrestle early. I'm going Jeff Neal versus Uros Medic under 1.5 at minus 195. It was minus 180. It's getting hit, but I was also eyeing does not start round 3, but that's like the best I could find was minus 340. So for just 2.5 minutes, still under minus 200. It's more widely available. I'm going under 1.5 for my parlay piece, man. I think we kind of touched on this fight. It's co-main event for a reason. Both guys very violent finishers. And really, until you saw Neal start fighting the elite of the division, the Ian Garys, the Shaft Cats, the finishes were always coming, and I think he's going to land on Medic. And just, seeing these things online about where he's at, I expect a good performance on him. I expect a better performance than we have lately. And then on the Medic side, 15 fights, 2 of them have been over 1.5 rounds, man. He's never been the scorecard once. 9 first-round finishes. All his losses are by TKO. So I personally don't see either one of them mixing in the wrestling. I think someone's getting knocked out in under 7.5 minutes. I like violence in this fight. And then best bet for your boy. It only makes sense for me, man. I've got 2.5 units wagered on it. It's the biggest bet of the year for me, so I thought it was, I thought it should be my best bet. It's the parlay I've got between Yadier Davale and Jocelyn Edwards at -141. I do believe you can get -150s, low -160s, and I still think it's a good bet. Davale, so much better athlete, better striker. I think he's a better grappler of the two, and that's the only thing Levitt ever brings into his game. Levitt slows down. He's coming down to 145. I don't like anything about that, honestly. On the Jocelyn Edwards side, she should have got the nod the first time around. I think she clearly won that fight, and she's the only one who's improved since then. Massive improvements. Better striker, better grappler, 6 years younger, double the experience, which we love to look at as well. So I know it's women's chalk. I expect Jocelyn Edwards to win here pretty quickly, and I think Davale finishes. So 2.5 units, -141, best bet of the week for me.
All right, I like it. I am going to kind of cheat a little bit here. I'm going to throw in 2. Brahimaj by submission, +165. It's the only way that he's going to win. You turn a favorite -120 to a +165. 12 of his 13 wins are by submission. Take that line. Obviously, best bet. If I have to pick a money line, though, it's going to be Carlos Leal. I think that people are really counting him out because he gets knocked out early, but holy shit, anything but a first-round finish from Chidi Njokuani, and Carlos Leal breaks this dude down the stretch. We're getting an awesome price tag on somebody who, had a fluke loss in his last one, and I just think that this is a steal of a price tag. So give me Carlos Leal for my best bet. But I gotta throw out the Brahimaj thing too. So that's how I'm seeing it, though. Let's see. We'll go down the card as our last one. I'll start us off and then ask you. Then you start the next one off. Ask me. I guess that's how we'll do it. We'll start off with the first fight of the night: Carly Judice versus Juliana Miller. I've got Carly Judice. I've got Carly Judice by decision. I think Juliana Miller is really tough, but I think Carly Judice wins by decision. I know she's a -700, so she should finish, but I think that Juliana Miller's tough.
You know my thoughts on Juliana Miller. I bet Brogan Walker against her in the tough finale. I don't like Juliana Miller. If Luana Santos is finishing you, I think Judice TKO. Featherweight, Yadier Davale taking on Jordan Levitt. You know my thoughts. Yadier inside the distance.
Yeah, same. I've got Yadier inside the distance. I'm curious to see how Jordan Levitt looks at 145, but I don't have too much hope for him. Moving on to Phil Rowe versus JPL. Man, I'm really tempted because of the size to bet the Phil Rowe side, but I'm not going to fall into that trap. I do think that John Paul Levidzananya is going to be a little bit more physical. He's a lifelong martial artist. I've got him to win probably by decision.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a black belt that doesn't like to grapple, and he's been knocked out before. I'm a glutton for punishment. Give me Phil Rowe +180. Brahimaj taking on Punahele, staying at 170. Dog of the week, Punahele. I think as long as you're fading a Brahimaj sub, and I think Punahele wins. So Punahele for me.
I got Brahimaj sub. Hoping it's early. Gets less likely as the fight goes on. Nora Cornoli versus Jocelyn Edwards. Me and you kind of disagree. I thought the first fight was close. I think I did have a bet on Nora Cornoli, though, so that might be why I remember it that way. Yes, I think Jocelyn Edwards should win. I think that it's by decision.
Top 10 robbery in UFC history. Jocelyn Edwards for the win. Alden Correa versus Luis Garule. I've seen Luis hurt by lesser fighters, but until he gets hurt, I don't know. I feel like the minutes might be close. I'm going to side with Alden Correa, but no bet for me. Not interested in the chalk or the dog.
Yeah, Alden Correa by decision is how I see that fight going. Ode versus Alabai Adirius. I've got Alabai Adirius. I'm not a huge fan of Ode Osborne, so I'm passing on betting him. He's super athletic, but I think Alabai is just going to be pushing forward the whole time and ultimately will break O'Day, or at least get the win on the judges' scorecards.
O'Day's so dangerous early, man, and seeing the way he can compete with Charles Johnson and Steve Erceg at plus money, give me O'Day Osborne. Probably going to bet him as well. Chidi Njokuani, Carlos Leal, prelim main event. Your boys on the island here. Give me Carlos Leal as well.
All right. Yep. Carlos Leal late, probably. Yeah. Moving on to the main card, Zach Reese versus Michelle Pereira. I think Michelle Pereira wins this like really often, honestly, like 75% or more of the time. I think Zach Reese is a first rounder bust. Give me Michelle Pereira here.
I think I jumped the gun earlier in the week saying I was going to bet Zach Reese. If Michelle's 75% of the fighter he was, he's better everywhere. Just keep it plain and simple. Jacoby Smith taking on Josiah Harrell at 170. I've not done tape on this fight, dude, but I do know I looked at Josiah Harrell when he was supposed to fight JDM. Dude's got a good gas tank, and Jacoby Smith does not. And so maybe it gets hairy late, but I also think Jacoby Smith is one of the better prospects that the UFC has. So I'm going to side with Jacoby Smith, but I'm not interested in the chalk at all.
Yeah, you touched on what I wanted to mention. Jacoby, one of the brighter prospects in the UFC, not even just the division. He has that wrestling to fall back on, and he does pack a punch as well. So if he can earn some respect on the feet, I think those takedowns are just going to come easier and easier. Give me Jacoby Smith. Sergey Spivak versus Ante Delija. Dang, dude. This fight seems to be maybe like a people's favorite on the card. I personally am not a Spivak fan, dude. He's let me down quite a bit, and I got robbed with Ante Delija in the last fight. At least I felt like it. I did. I've got Ante here, but I will not be making the bet. A little bit older, a little bit worn in fight years, and I think that he's had some of his best fights behind him in the PFL. And Sergey, still at only 31 years old, has some upside. So give me Ante Delija, though. I don't think.
Yeah, dude. At worst, that should have been a no contest. No way we should have lost our bet on Delija that night. Ante's aside for me, plus 220, 240 first round knockouts. A little bit interesting to me because I think he gets it done in round one. So I'm on the Delija side, and his money line's only getting better. So that's even something I could keep an eye on. Dan Ige, Melquizael Costa at 145. Dude, Dan Ige's been a value loser so many times, but at plus 185, it's a plus EV play 100%. Costa doesn't look 65% here. Give me Dan Ige.
Yep, Dan Ige by decision. I think he wins the moments. I think he doesn't get finished. I love Dan Ige here in this spot. Jeff Neal versus Urosh Medic. I got Jeff Neal. I think Jeff Neal probably finishes in round 2.
I got Jeff Neal, but I got Jeff Neal round 1. And in main event, man, I like what you said. I think it's a dirty fight. But I do think Hernandez just dogs it out with some takedowns late, no finish here. I like it going to decision. I like Hernandez decision.
Yeah, Hernandez decision all the way.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys watching as always. Hope you like the new format. Hope you like us honing in on the spots we like. And as always, see you guys next week.